If you can't afford expensive saturation plugins from companies such as Waves, Soundtoys, and Universal Audio, then don't waste your time installing dodgy, cracked plugins and get your hands on this spicy secret sauce for free. In today's video, we're gonna go through the best free saturation VSTs and rate them on a level of spicy from mild to hot, 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 hot. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Boombox, the home of collaboration. I'm Fabio from Noise. Before we crack on, please remember to hit that like and subscribe button and comment down below with what your favorite saturation plugin is. Why is saturation important? You see, saturation in audio mixing is the secret spicy sauce that turns bland tracks into audio deliciousness. Think of this as the condiment that makes your mix go from mild to, waiter, can I get some water, please? And here's why you should start adding it to your tracks. Saturation can increase harmonic enrichment by turning cold, lifeless mixes into warm, analog sounding recordings. It can glue everything, much like throwing all your ingredients into a blender and then boom, you got a delicious tasting smoothie. And everything just seems to work together a little bit more. It also acts as natural compression as it tames transients and smooths out peaks without the harshness of digital clipping, and in turn this can also make things louder. The three different types of saturation that you might be most familiar with are tape, tube, and transistor. I've created this table here so that you can screenshot it and save it for later when you're in the studio trying to decide on which sauce you should add to what. Saturation is like adding hot sauce to a burrito. It can give it that extra kick and character and make things more interesting and spicier. The first free saturation we're going to start with is the Szechuan saturator, which they claim will make your music sound steamy and bootylicious, whatever that means. So we can immediately hear that it's quite an obvious saturation. It's not a subtle one, which is why I'm applying it to a single loop. We've got the intensity here, the mix, so the dry wet, and then the input and output. So we're just addressing the input levels going into the saturation. The more input you drive, the more saturation you're going to get. And then the output, we're just balancing out the volume. So when I turn it on and off, it's going to be the same. I do like the way this sounds, but I do think the thing that makes the Szechuan saturator unique is the mod rate and the modulation depth, which I believe is a volume tremolo style automation without the panning. And this just allows you to do these really cool effects in a saturator, which you wouldn't usually get from this type of effect. Because it's unsynchronized, you can add this very loose groove to things, which I think sounds really cool. I mean, it's very creative. I'm not sure that I would use this a lot. Let's try it on a different sound to see how it could work in a track.
Dancing around in my tight dress, I'm feeling myself, got them all breaking there. Dancing around in my tight dress, dancing around in my tight dress, I'm feeling myself, got them all breaking their neck. Just look at me, I don't mean to be like that. Everywhere I go, collateral effects. While I'm dancing around in my tight dress, I'm feeling myself, got them all breaking their neck. Just look at me, I don't mean to be like that. Everywhere I go, collateral effects.
So even without the saturation and just with this LFO tool, I think you could have a lot of fun. I'm going to rate the Szechuan saturator at a spice level of hot, hot, hot. Next we have the G-Sat Plus, which is a little bit more of a pro saturation unit. It's based off a TB Pro audio channel strip and it has 3 tube modeled circuits. Let's try it out.
Everything's in motion.
So you can hear, even when we're pushing it quite hard, we're increasing the stages, the odd harmonics, the even harmonics. It's very subtle, much more subtle than the Szechuan saturator before. This would sort of tell me that it's more of a high quality saturator that you could use in a mastering process or maybe on buses, like group buses of vocals or even drums. Just check out the different characters and see how that affects the signal.
Everything's in motion. Everything
Really like the crisp character here. It feels like it's lifting the highs ever so slightly. Another thing that tells me that this is more of a pro saturator is that we have a clip, which is great. So we can clip the seeding, we can hard clip those transients, and we also have the ability to oversample. I'm not going to get into detail about what oversampling is, but essentially when it comes to things like distortion and compression, it increases the quality of the signal, which can be very important when you're doing something like mastering. Like I said, this is a pro sounding saturator, but it is very subtle, so I am going to give it the spice level of mild. That doesn't mean that because it's not spicy, it's not a great tool. The level of spice is just an indicator as to how much it's affecting the signal. I do love a really simple plugin that has one dial, and Mia Fat provides me with exactly this. Now, I never heard of Mia or MIA before. They have 3 of these one knob plugins. They say that this one, the MIA Fat, is for maximizing low frequencies in a new generation of sound systems and is most applicable to genres such as EDM, techno, and dub reggae. Seeing as it claims to affect the low frequencies, I am going to open up an analyzer to help better understand how much it's adding to the bottom end.
Everything's in motion.
But also, I feel like there's a shelf EQ maybe driving into some saturation there. It sounds good. I actually think it does quite a nice job in bringing out the kick and the bass on this track. You could use it at the mastering stage, or you could actually just use it on a kick and bass bus. But how spicy is it? I'm going to give the MIA Fat a level of hot. It's not subtle, but it's not super aggressive. And I think when used in the right way, it's going to give you the oomph that your low end needs. And another thing to remember is that these videos are not possible without Boombox. Link is in the description below. Sign up for free today and become part of the new industry standard for musicians across the world. Share your files, look professional, find collaborators, create playlists, and make yourself available for hire. Boombox may not be a saturation plugin, but its spice level is off the charts. We're not just trying to create a great platform for you to do all those things that I mentioned before, but we are trying to change the music industry one step at a time. So follow us for the journey. We'd love to have you on board, and let's get back to burning the roof of our mouths. Next, we have the Tube Saturator Vintage, which is by WA Audio. They claim that this is the world's most accurate tube saturation plugin, and that it's simulating the sound of a dual triode preamp. It's pretty simple. We've got an EQ section here, a drive, then the fat, which increases the input coming into the saturator so you can get more saturation out of it, and then a dial to increase or decrease the output.
Everything's in motion.
I think this sounds really, really nice. It has that gluey, tubey, kind of smushy sound that you would want from this kind of saturation. I don't know if this is necessarily the right track to apply it to, but you can definitely hear it doing its thing. Even with a small amount of drive, it's just softening everything a little bit in that warm analog way. I really, really like the way this sounds. I think I'm going to be using this one quite a lot. Now, I also think that it would work really well on vocals and bass guitars, some synthesizers as well, because it's going to help absorb and smooth out some of those peaks and transients too, while still adding some of that nice color. I'm going to give this a level of 2.5. So it's in between hot and hot. And this is because I think it has the capability of doing both. This can be incredibly subtle, but if you drive this, you can get a really nice tone, which allows you to be both minimal with its application and very creative. And last but not... And last but not least, we have the BPB, which is the Bedroom Producer Blog Saturator. This has both tube and tape saturation, a high pass filter, and a low pass filter, an input and an output. Incredibly simple, and the ability to blend two different types of saturation in one interface.
Everything's in motion. In motion. Everything's in motion. In motion.
So I can hear that the tube is very quickly distorting, not really affecting the lows and highs so much. If anything, it's absorbing the lows and highs as you add saturation. It's attenuating them, probably a better word than absorbing. The tape, on the other hand, in the way that tape does, is enhancing those lows and highs and bringing them out. So it really depends what you're applying this to. I think I prefer the way the tape sounds, and that's just because it's what this track needs. But let me see if I can get the right blend of the two, and then let's turn it on and off.
Everything's in motion. In motion. Everything's in motion. In motion. Everything's in motion.
I imagine that it's the tube saturation going into the tape saturation, so it's serial and not parallel, but I'm not entirely sure. It does react very quickly to the signal, so this isn't necessarily a distortion / saturation that I would use in the mastering process. I actually think it's quite heavy-handed, which means it would be great for individual sounds and potentially bus processing. Especially with the use of the filters, I think that you could start to shape something in quite a creative way. Let me show you what I mean by using this vocal as an example.
Dancing around in my tight dress, I'm feeling myself, got them all breaking their necks. Just look at me, I don't mean to be like that. Everywhere I go, collateral effects. All the boys say I'm a little salty, but they kinda like it when I get a little ballsy. Gotta level up, gotta get naughty. They're about to leave when my legs get palsy. Yeah, dancing around in my tight dress, I'm feeling myself, got them all breaking their necks. Just look at me, I don't mean to be like that. Everywhere I go, collateral effects. All the boys say I'm a little salty, but they kinda like it when I get a little ballsy. Gotta level up, gotta get naughty.
So you can have a bit more fun with this in creating these nice filtered, almost radio, megaphone, telephone effects, rather than trying to apply it in a subtle way to a larger group of sounds. How spicy do you think this is? I'm actually going to vote this as the hottest we've had so far at a spice level of 4. And that's because it does have those two saturation units, which you can drive really hard and then filter. I don't think anyone would necessarily intend to use this in a subtle way, but I would advise to have more fun with the BPB saturator and create effects like the one that I just showed you on the vocal. Don't forget to like and subscribe and comment down below with what your favorite saturation plugin is. You can also sign up for Boombox today, completely for free. Link is in the description below. It's been a pleasure as always, and I'll see you very soon. Peace!